Indianapolis, and the RCA Dome still rocking after a thrilling opener to the national semifinals. The Kentucky Wildcats about to take the floor as Game 2 will feature the Minnesota Golden Gophers and the Kentucky Wildcats, the national champions from a year ago. Hi, everybody. Jim Nance, Billy Packer, all set for Game 2. 2-1 seeds. Kentucky looking for back-to-back titles here in Indianapolis. Meanwhile, Minnesota, for the first time ever, experiencing the Final Four. What do you think, Billy?
Well, Bob Knight said this is the best Big Ten team that's represented him in the NCAA tournament in a long time. I think he was right about that. This is not the same team Kentucky had last year, but great quickness on this team. This should be quite a basketball game. All
right, Billy, let's get our seats back. It's all set now for the second game. Minnesota, Kentucky, lineups and tip coming up.
CBS Sports exclusive.
Minnesota and Kentucky. The Golden Gophers 31-3 on the year, while Kentucky was 34-4. Let's meet the players and the teams, and for the honors, back over to Frank Fallon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the RCA Dome for tonight's NCAA game between the Minnesota Golden Gophers and the Kentucky Wildcats. And now let's meet the starting lineups. For Minnesota at forward, a 6'6" junior from Cottage Grove, Minnesota, number 5, Sam Jacobson. For Kentucky at forward, a 6'7" sophomore from Nashville, Tennessee, number 33, Ron Mercer. For Minnesota at forward, a 6'9" sophomore from Indianapolis, Indiana, number 4, Courtney James. For Kentucky at forward, a 6'9" sophomore from Louisville, Kentucky, number 34, Scott Padgett. For Minnesota at center, a 6'9" senior from Indianapolis, Minnesota, number 12, John Thomas. For Kentucky at center, a 6'10" freshman from Toronto, Canada, number 42, Jamal McGlure. For Minnesota at guard, a 6'3" sophomore from New York, New York, number 33, Eric Harris. For Kentucky at guard, a 6'2" senior from Lebanon, Kentucky, number 25, Anthony Epps. For Minnesota at guard, a 6'1" senior from Salisbury, North Carolina, number 24, Bobby Jackson. For Kentucky at guard, a 6'2" sophomore from Boston, Massachusetts, number 5, Wayne Turner. And the coaches for Minnesota in his 17th season, Glenn Haskins. From Kentucky in his 15th season, Rick Pitino.
Billy, let's get your game analysis for this semifinal contest.
Well, Jim, go with the flow is the first one, and that is what is going to be the flow of this game. 15 seconds is my call right here. How long will Minnesota be able to go ahead and get the game going their way? Watch the 15-second mark on the shot clock. Defense, a defensive offense, and that's Kentucky. Points off turnovers. They're averaging 26 a game. Let's see how they do with that. The bench, without question, in this Final Four, Minnesota has had the advantage. And do they contain Kentucky tonight with that bench? And number 4, MVP's day. Jackson against Mercer. I realize they won't be head-to-head, but both of these guys are capable of controlling the basketball game.
Kentucky has won 10 straight NCAA tournament games. Gagliata, Libby, and Burr honored by getting the assignment tonight. McGlure and Thomas will jump. Minnesota in the dark uniforms. Meeting for the first time since 1958. Minnesota and Kentucky. Jacobson gets the assignment with Mercer. Turner's had a outstanding tournament for Kentucky. Got Harris all over him.
Wow, look at those bodies going against Turner.
Mercer outside.
Very difficult shot on the fadeaway.
Jacobson has a strip. Paget ahead to Epps.
With Turner and Epps out here, you really have 2 point guards in the game for Kentucky. Gives them a good ability to distribute the ball. But they're going up against 2 great defensive guards.
Epps comes it inside. The freshman McGlure is hammered on top of the head by Thomas. Minnesota came out of the Midwest region. Victories over Southwest Texas. Second round Temple. They cruised that first week. Then the double overtime game against Clemson, the regional final. Another stunning victory, beating UCLA, the 2 seed.
Jim, so many great games that weekend, but you might say that the double overtime with Clemson might have been the big game with the exception of the Kansas upset in the tournament.
Freshman from Canada, who's on the Canadian national team as a high schooler, scores the first point of the game and gets 1 of 2 at the line. Inside, again taken away. Minnesota without a shot on its first 2 possessions. Paget, 3. And Jacobson skies for the board.
Paget's got to hit that shot and walk in there. Nobody coming back for the ball. As you can see, Thomas came back, but the guards were running away, Harris particularly.
Kentucky out of the West with wins against Montana, playing the highest seed every step of the way. The 8 seed Iowa, the 4 seed St. Joe's, the 2 seed Utah to make it back to the Final Four. Mercer with that quick release. It rattles out. Jackson has it.
And there's that curl move. And Minnesota looking to attack Kentucky every time down the floor. Not good hands on the inside by James.
4 possessions, 4 turnovers by the Golden Gophers. Nerves quite evident.
Jim, there is one constant, and that is hard-nosed defense. Minnesota holds teams down percentage-wise better than anybody in the Final Four.
Epps with a 3, and Kentucky's in front 4-0.
And here comes the pressure. When Kentucky scores, they're going to press. And look at Minnesota's going to attack.
Jackson, Big Ten Player of the Year. Doesn't get it to go. That was their first attempt. It took them 2 minutes to get a shot off. Mercer spinning and delivering.
He loves the open court game, and here comes Minnesota on the attack.
Jacobson fouled on the layup attempt by Paget.
Jim, the game plan is set. Clem Haskins has decided to attack against the press. Here we're going to see the kind of thing that only the gifted can do. Mercer in the open court. Reverse spin dribble. Fade away. Soft shot. Put it away. That's why he's an All-American.
First team All-America, unanimous All-Conference out of the SEC. May have not won, though, the Conference Player of the Year had Derek Anderson not gone down with injury. He may have been on his way to winning that honor. Jacobson will shoot 1 more.
It's kind of interesting, Jim. When Anderson went down, he was the leading scorer on the team. They were both averaging a little over 18 points a game. Kentucky only once has ever had 2 guys averaging 20 points a game. That was when Riley and Dampier made it back in the Adolph Rupp days.
So Jacobson puts the Gophers on the board, and that's a travel.
Mistake by Turner. And Rick Pitino looks at Turner and says, why? And he's absolutely correct. You're the point guard. Turner acknowledges it was his fault. Kentucky showing zone.
Harris, who set out the practice yesterday with that injured right shoulder.
Good touch pass.
With hands, got it back to Thomas. James pinned. Whistle. 3-second violation.
Jim, what we have right now is that the game offensively is going inside to Thomas and James, neither one showing good hands at all, and that passing with a short distance.
Jackson defending on Epps. Jacobson makes the steal. 2-on-1. Over to Jackson for the layup. No, miss it. They still haven't made a field goal almost 3 minutes into the game.
Jackson was anticipating Epps trying to draw the charge.
Magic comes up short. Slipped out of his hands. Epps with the interception. Picking it off like the wide receiver he was in high school.
Did we see a little of this in the first game, Jim, where North Carolina tried to go for home runs instead of playing solid? In a game that turned into a horrible shooting contest.
James with a rejection on one end and a chance to score inside. He gets rejected. Thomas scores with the slam.
Not pretty, but powerful. But every catch has been an experience so far inside.
Look at this. Turner with a 3-on-2. Epps on the wing. Three-pointer. He's got 2 of them.
Well, throughout his career, everybody has tried to put Epps on the bench, including Rick Pitino a few times, but he just battles himself back in there and has proved to be one of the real unsung heroes in college basketball.
Made that nice over-the-shoulder grab, though, didn't he? A moment ago, looked like his old high school football days. Layup by Jackson.
Fearless drive going right at McClure.
9-5 Kentucky.
Harris' job is to keep Turner in front of him. Don't let him penetrate. Don't worry about him taking a shot. Good help by Thomas. Jim, we talked about the bench, and here comes 5 subs in. 3 for Kentucky and 2 for Minnesota.
Bump on the back, foul on Thomas, and a TV timeout. We'll be right back.
Back at the RCA Dome, a scary note for the Arizona Wildcats right now. Jason Terry has been taken to a local hospital as a precautionary measure. He was knocked down toward the end of Arizona's win in the previous game. They think he may have hit his head, but more likely he's severely dehydrated. He's nauseous, he's dizzy, and as I said, Jim and Billy, they have taken him to a local hospital to keep an eye on him. We'll have more for you later on.
Okay, thank you. Michelle Tafoya.
Tough break for a young man who really contributed off the bench in that first game.
Let's hope he's fine for Monday night. Cameron Mills in the game, 21, handling the ball for Kentucky. They brought in also Nazi Muhammad, number 13, and this man, Jared Prickett, who scores on the inside. So 3 subs in for Kentucky.
Jim, it was Prickett and Mills who played so well against Iowa, scoring 26 of the first 35 points that Kentucky scored.
Double dribble called on Quincy Lewis, who just came in. Lewis, along with Trevor Winter, number 50 for Coach Clem Haskins.
That's what Kentucky will do to you. You take out a primary ball handler, and they just sense it and go right after it.
How about this? 7 turnovers. We're not even 5 minutes into the game. Charles Thomas also in for Minnesota. For 34. Prickett soars for the rebound, gets it over to Epps, and Jackson pulls it down. He can rebound for a man. It's only 6'1".
There's instant offense.
Quincy Lewis knocks that one, and a push off on Kentucky.
Clem Haskins is going to go ahead and use that entire bench, which he's used so successfully throughout the course of this tournament. Against UCLA, he had 9 players who played double figures or more in the ball game, so not afraid to go to it. Shows a lot of confidence.
Miles Tarver in for Minnesota, 42. There's Lewis. His first 2, and Nazi Muhammad, a remarkable story, shedding 60 pounds. What a player he's turned out to be. Mills, what a shooter, too, in the tournament. He's now 14 of 19 from three-point range in the NCAAs, over 70%.
Jim did not score the last game, but prior to that, led Kentucky in scoring. And look at where that press is. If they're going to throw the ball down in the deep right-hand corner, there's going to be some trouble for Minnesota. You've got to keep the ball in the middle of the court or go over the top.
Thomas with 3. Jackson, he thought he had one of his interior players underneath. Another turnover.
Very similar to the first game. We are seeing the style dictated by one of the teams. Kentucky forcing tempo here, just as Arizona did it against North Carolina, and it's causing Minnesota to be woeful from a shooting standpoint. Mercer got hit on the arm on that jump shot.
A pass off of Mills. You say the style similar to the first game. So was the score. With Carolina in the first game, bursting ahead 15-4. This is 14-5 Kentucky.
But I'm going to swap that, Jim. I really think that the pressure was created by Kentucky. In the first game, North Carolina lost the way they would like to play by getting that big lead. This is kind of the reverse here. I think Kentucky's got it exactly the way they'd like to have it being played. And they're back in that zone again.
Lewis pinned for a moment. Jackson steps up. A confident three.
Good fundamental technique by Jackson, stepping right into the seam for that jump shot. Young man from Salisbury, North Carolina. Went to junior college. Thinking about going to Wake Forest for a time. But ended up with Clem Haskins and has certainly produced.
Mercer, shot blocked. Again, he thinks he got fouled.
He's absolutely correct. That's 2 jumpers in a row. Ron Mercer's been hit on the arm.
Minnesota brings back Eric Harris.
And here's the press. Keep the ball out of the corner so they can't trap you there.
To 8 Kentucky.
1-4 offense by Minnesota, and Kentucky goes man-to-man.
Harris drives, gets it over to Winter. Got a good look.
Jim, if Winter would have taken 2 steps in, he has a layup. That's a tough shot for a big man to hit. Just that little 6-footer. Kind of was paralyzed, standing there waiting for the delivery.
Turner has it knocked, got it back. But Winter was out of position, and Muhammad will shoot too. Winter on the hack.
Beautiful catch by Muhammad. The ball was thrown down around his knees, and he was on the move. You love to see big guys with good hands. You see the pass right here. See how low the pass was? He still was able to catch it, not walk, and put it up so he goes to the line.
Mercer goes out, and into the game for Kentucky is Allen Edwards. He has been out since March the 18th with a small stress fracture in his right ankle. Missed the 2 games in San Jose.
Jim, a real testimony to Rick Pitino's positive attitude to have a guy go down like Edwards, realizing his ranks were already depleted, and still coming back there with a guys willing to play and understanding even though they're depleted, they're still going to keep up this intense pressure.
Harris breaks the pressure alone, sets up Winter for the 2.
There was the difference. He took the step in and he ended up getting a layup.
Mills.
That's not his shot.
Cricket got it back. Cricket lays it in. Only the 2nd Wildcat in history to play on 3 Final Four teams. Walter Hirsch, the other.
And has played more games for Kentucky than anyone in their history.
And a charge drawn by Edwards. Winter off the pass from Harris, but Kentucky leads by 6. Nance along with Billy Packer, courtside Indianapolis. That was a Wildcat.
Arizona or Kentucky?
That could be the matchup. We could have the battle of the Wildcats on Monday night.
And for the first time, Minnesota goes to a 2-1-2 zone. We always think of Kentucky being a great perimeter team. Let's see if they can go ahead and do something against this zone with Mercer out of the game. But he'll be coming in quickly.
That fouled against Minnesota's Charles Thomas.
Jim, these 2 teams have got some common opponents. There comes Mercer in the game. Kentucky lost to Clemson right here on this floor in the BCA game to start the season, 71-69 in overtime. And then you have Minnesota beat Clemson twice this year, including, of course, that double overtime in the NCAA tournament. Minnesota lost at Alabama. Kentucky won at Alabama. So what you can get out of that is we are right back where we started, two pretty evenly matched teams.
Saw Mercer return. He's made only 1 of 7 from the field, so he's cold also.
Well, I think he was fouled on 2 of them, Jim, and it's going to be up to him to get better looks coming off of that little curl move that he likes so well.
17-10 Kentucky.
Kentucky and Minnesota both showing zone.
Jacobson will return and gets the jumper, and he'll head to the line for a 3-point play.
A brilliant shot.
Tough shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacobson from the corner, just a great shot. Bodies on him. Very strong young man.
Ozzie Muhammad has now 2 personals.
Jacobson, of course, teaming with Jackson. With Jackson getting the 36 points and Jacobson getting the 29 against Clemson. Great shooting exhibition.
65 of their 90 on that night.
And here is a 1-3-1 half-court trap. Clem Haskins has shown him everything he's got in his defensive arsenal. Drops back into a 2-3 zone. They didn't get here early for nothing, Jim. Clem Haskins has put it all in.
And a whistle out away from the ball, and it's going against Kentucky.
I really like what Clem is doing. A 3-second violation. Mixing things up. Normally, Rick Pitino decides what the style is going to be. Right now, Clem Haskins is changing things up on him.
Hatchet back in for Kentucky.
A man from Kentucky confusing Kentucky, huh?
That's Clem Haskins from Campbellsville, 75 miles outside of Lexington. Talk about Kentucky opening the season in the Dome here against Clemson. Now they've got to play Clem the Gym, as he's known by his friends.
3-time OVC Player of the Year. I was thinking, next to John Wooden, he may be the best player ever to bring a team to the Final Four as a coach.
Mercer snags it and takes off. Now slowed down from behind. Backcourt, a backcourt violation. But
very close.
Official right there. Padgett. It looked good all the way from our angle.
Beautiful follow through by Padgett.
His first 3. 20-13 Kentucky. And another turnover. They double teamed them, forced it. Mercer lays it in.
Bad decision by Harris. And Clem wants a 20-second timeout. He's not getting it.
Over the top. Look out. Tarver lucky to retrieve that. And they get the lay-in. Slam dunk.
And Clem is asking for the 22nd anyway. Oh, I don't know how he gets a 20-second timeout. It's Kentucky's ball.
They hadn't inbounded it yet. 22-15 Kentucky.
I think Rick liked it.
Arizona advancing with an 8-point win over North Carolina. Carolina 0-2. Here in the RCA Dome. They lost by 6 to Kansas back in the 91 Final Four semifinal, and by 8 today.
Had the same bench, if you remember, against Kansas, Jim.
Prelude to a championship Monday night with our tip time 9:18. Arizona against the winner of this one. You know, a lot of people were thinking Kentucky and North Carolina, just a collision course destined to happen. And oddly enough, the 2 winningest programs in college basketball history have never met in a Final Four. Turner, and it won't happen this year.
That's what Turner does so well. That little lean-in type shot after he penetrates inside the foul line.
Jacobson to James, and he was fouled.
The last time James went after a play like that on this court, he was leading his team to the Indiana State High School Championship.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
James, in fact, from Ben Davis High School here in Indianapolis, and his high school band came out to greet the Golden Gophers when they arrived on Tuesday, as you said, Billy, 2 days ahead of everyone else.
You know, it's kind of interesting, Jim. Most people think, well, I don't want to go to the Final Four city. There's so much commotion here. Clem said the problem was we had such great fan following in Minneapolis. We had to get out of town to get away from it.
Monday morning, Clem Haskins went in to get some donuts at a donut shop, and he was out the door an hour and 10 minutes later.
And now Minnesota Minnesota says, hey, Kentucky, teams that press don't like to be pressed. Let's try you for a while. Obviously not as effective as Kentucky's. You're going to be a good pressure team. You've got to do it just about all the time, particularly in practice. Got to be a state of mind in addition to how you're going to defensively employ yourself.
Epps had a big man on him, puts it outside to Paget. Don't ever leave him open for a three. He's got 6.
Well, we saw in the first game where the likes of Dickerson and others never let Shammond Williams open for the jumper. And you're right, Jim, you cannot let Paget open for that patented jump shot.
Kentucky's made 5 of 7 from outside the line. And enjoying now its largest lead, a double-figure lead, 10 points. Lewis. James, good position.
Good, powerful rebound by James. Boy, he's a wide body in there.
Jackson off the back of the rim.
Jackson really struggling, Jim. Up against Mercer. He's given up about 3-4 inches. Not able to get the shot off. Good solid screen. Prickett could have been ready for that jump shot of his own. He'd rather not take anything from the perimeter.
He would look to shoot more often back in his freshman year in '93 when he helped guide him to the Final Four. And a foul here.
There's a foul on a screen by Prickett.
And we've got a TV timeout under 8. We'll be right back. And there's the man from Jack, David James Elliott.
One of the things, Jim, if you go against Kentucky's press, you cannot be down this far in the court. Now, we're going to see Minnesota go over the top and get by, but the center fielder almost picks this off. Minnesota gets very lucky here in beating the press. Almost a steal by Turner. Instead, Minnesota delivers for 2. But if you employ that kind of offensive strategy against Kentucky, about 7 times out of 10, it's going to be their ball going the other way.
Scott Paget has knocked down 2 threes. So that foul on the screen against Prickett, Minnesota inbounding down 10. Quick hands of Jackson leads to 2.
There's the difference between passing the ball to a man with great hands and what we saw earlier by Minnesota with their big people inside. Here's the 1-3-1 half-court trap again.
Mercer, 2-pointer, toe on the line. Kentucky's hit 6 straight shots.
So Clem Haskins, when he goes back and reviews the tape, will have to think about employing that 1-3-1 again because Mercer spotted it quickly. James. Good execution by Minnesota.
29-21 Wildcats, 7:10 to go first half.
James really getting out on Paget, saying, let me see if you can dribble by me.
Turner got stuck, and they say it's foul on the shot against Harris.
Jim Turner's absolutely amazing. We're talking about a point guard playing for Kentucky who this year has taken 15 three-point shots. You know, you just assume, hey, if you're playing point guard for Kentucky, you're a three-point threat. He is not that. Anything from this distance on in. And from the foul line, only shooting 52.5%.
That one rolls off the rim. Tight rims was the viewpoint of our Mike Krzyzewski before the game, just scouting around. And we've had some awful shooting performances here on semifinal Saturday. Kentucky now 3 of 8 from the line.
Here is the pressure again. One of the things that Rick Pitino loves is to make free throws so the press can be put in play.
Had a spurt yet by Minnesota. Never led in this game. Lewis, they need him to get on track.
That's a nice touch pass by Thomas. We're seeing some local shooting, Jim, on the part of the teams trying to make comebacks here. Not by this man.
First miss from out there. Minnesota ball. Minnesota's 31-3 on the year. Thomas comes back in. That's Charles Thomas. The only losses to Alabama, Illinois, and Wisconsin.
They won a lot of close ball games in the Big Ten.
And that double overtime game here in the tournament.
Of course, one of their big games, the big wins, coming back against Indiana.
7 down with 50 seconds to go. They dunk again.
Minnesota making up percentage-wise for getting a lot of good dishes on the inside of Kentucky's defense.
Minnesota's crowd jumps to its feet. Epps outside, tries to quiet him. Turner steps in. Back of the rim. Minnesota quickly on the break. Bounce pass and a tough one, but it somehow lands in Jackson's hands and a foul on Epps.
Minnesota's theory is just to force the ball right at Kentucky. We'll see if it's going to be successful. Thomas with good hands puts this one away. Nice speed by Lewis.
That last whistle is on Prickett. He has 2. Mercer goes out. Prickett also with the 2.
Obviously, Minnesota, this being their first Final Four, never faced Kentucky in a Final Four, but Kentucky did play at Minnesota for a Final Four in '51, winning the championship, beating Kansas State with Cliff Hagan and company.
They brought Jacobson back into the game. Jackson, he was fouled on the shot.
Well, we saw Jacobson make a tremendous shot from the side there, and Jackson almost made that one.
That's the second on Padgett. 2 on Padgett, 2 on Muhammad, and 2 on Prickett.
3 times Jackson was Big Ten Player of the Week. First time in Minnesota history that any of their players had accomplished that feat, and obviously first team all-conference and Player of the Year.
And Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Bobby Jackson, young man. You mentioned, Billy, out of North Carolina, as Mercer just got a quick rest, Padgett out. Jackson never even made a basketball team until his sophomore year in high school. Late bloomer.
And, you know, big things expected of him when he came to Minnesota, but he broke his foot first day of practice last year, so he missed 7 games. Really didn't get himself rolling for the second half of the season.
Gophers have snuck back into this game, down only 5 now. Mercer, 3-point shot. And the Golden Gophers can continue to chip away. 30-25 Kentucky. Thomas, charge.
We see Thomas, much like Spicker in the first game, not that quick a foot.
Billy, that's the 3rd on the starting center for Minnesota.
Well, fortunately for Clem Haskins, he can go deep in the bench. We saw in the NCAA tournament, and I'll never forget the game, Stanford against Wake Forest, how Stanford went 4 centers deep against Tim Duncan in a successful strategy.
Trevor Winters will now anchor the inside for the Gophers.
Trying to do everything they can to prevent Mercer coming from that curl move. That time they fouled him.
Miles Tarver, the culprit, his first, and a 1-on-1 situation. Minnesota did not lose a game this year against ranked opponents. Perfect 8-0. Quite telling, wouldn't you think, Billy? And Mercer does not manage to get a second opportunity, missing the front end.
Good job by Winter to control that ball rather than trying to make a big play.
Jackson threw it away. Edwards, 3-point. What about that?
What's happening is the second guard is running away from the first guard, causing problems for Minnesota.
Thomas cutting to the basket, in and out. Get another shot. No foul. Turner.
The boy got a piece of that one.
We approach the 4-minute mark. Kentucky by 8.
Nice defense.
Edwards, same spot where he made the one a moment ago. Wildcat ball. Cameron Mills will be coming into the Kentucky lineup after this timeout. 33-25 Wildcats. Kentucky 33-25. Man, the difference from three-point range quite significant. Kentucky's made 6, only one by Minnesota. And Michelle Tafoya, you've got a story.
Well, yeah, you guys, this arena is exceptionally breezy. I'm sure you've noticed it from where you are. In fact, Arizona's Miles Simon and North Carolina's Ed Cota both said after the previous game they've never been in an arena this breezy before. Simon added that it may have affected shooting percentages. Cota said that he was cold all the time, afraid to come out of the game because his hands were getting too cold. Both teams shot in the low 30s, and Minnesota and Kentucky aren't faring much better, guys.
Something you would never even think about, Michelle. In a situation like this, Minnesota will be with the wind in the second half.
Well, everybody's used to playing outdoors. When you grow up as a kid, you got to, give up something for windage. But we did feel a little breeze. I would find that.
You've been saying it yourself.
Yep.
Charles Thomas just picked up his third. So the Thomases of Minnesota, each with 3. Mills shoot one more.
Boy, you look about a pure stroke. A young man who was told that he would never get to play at Kentucky. If you really want to play college basketball, maybe you ought to go somewhere else. But his dad played for Adolph Rupp and said, this is where I'm going, and how about the opportunity to be part of the great history.
His father, Terry, played from 69-71. Backcourt violation.
Now, see, Jim, here's what's happening. The guards are getting by the trap sometimes, but the guards have to work as a pair. One guard beats it with a dribble. The other guard runs away and leaving a big man to handle the ball, which he's not accustomed to. Again, give credit to the Kentucky press.
Turnovers today, including their first 4 possessions of the game. 3.5 to go. First half.
Carver using his hands to check Mercer. So far doing a pretty effective job with it. When you're not worried about fouling out, you can use those arms pretty liberally. Down inside on Mills, they didn't get him the ball.
Got the arm. Did McGlure. We talked earlier about the 2 winningest programs being Kentucky and North Carolina. Never met in a Final Four. It's just hard to imagine. They have met twice in NCAA tournament history, both in regional finals, 77 and 95. And it won't happen this year.
Dean Smith played, his teams played against Adolph Rupp on numerous occasions. I mean, not as much as you would expect, but Dean Smith had the winning advantage over the Baron. The Baron, of course, in the latter years of his career. Picked up by Harris.
35-27. Kentucky's led all the way.
Bobby Jackson not letting Mills get open at all. Terrific job. Great job by Jackson. He understands, hey, look, we're not going to let Mills spot up and take a jump shot. If he's going to shoot, he's got to shoot off the dribble, much as we saw Arizona do to Shammond Williams in the first game. Make the shooters put it on the floor.
Jacobson fires and delivers. He's got 6. Brings them within 6. Kentucky a moment ago had a 10-point lead and possession. Again, that's roused the Golden Gopher followers. Mercer. Minnesota rebound. Been kind of an out-of-sync first half, but Minnesota can get close.
I think Ron Mercer allowed those 2 shots that he took where he got hit on the arm to affect him.
Jacobson's missed 12 straight from 3 in the tournament. Jackson misses the short one.
No place for Mercer to go here.
Edwards, whistle, and a walk. Coming up, Pennzoil at the half. Pat, along with Clark Kellogg and Coach K with their first half analysis, plus Lute Olson will join them to talk a little more detail about that first game. By the way, they've ruled out a head injury to Jason Terry, and it looks like dehydration. He had suffered a cold earlier in the week, but he's still at the hospital undergoing some tests.
You notice Rick Pitino, a good move there. He took Mills out of the game to go ahead and instruct him a little bit as to how he's being defended and why he can't get that jumper off.
Flora with the steal.
Jackson insists on going down inside against Kentucky.
Mercer
having problems.
James, and he led Jackson too much. Really sloppy here for Minnesota. 14 turnovers now the count.
Well, as we said, Clem Haskins decided, you see him using a hand gesture to slow things down a little bit. But he started right at the beginning to say, we're going to attack. Hard to pull it back.
So a 20-second timeout called by Rick Pitino. And there's Clem Haskins. Grew up on a farm in Campbellsville, Kentucky. No radio, no TV. The first time he ever saw basketball, he was 11 years old. A neighbor, Dave Roberts, just threw a basketball in his direction. He snagged it with one hand and said, here, take a shot. His neighbor had just erected a goal out in the middle of an apple orchard. And Clem threw it baseball style from some 40 feet, hit the wooden backboard, and went in.
Now, the rest of the story.
he has the backboard in his basement at home. Quite a keepsake.
One of the best pure shooters that the game has seen on the college level, and of course the great 9-year career as a pro.
He was the 3rd pick in the 1967 draft by the Chicago Bulls, who the next time they had the 3rd pick in the draft picked some guy named Jordan in '84.
Here's the press still on, a dangerous pass. Bobby Jackson's going to have to understand when Harris gets caught like that, he's going to have to come hard back to the ball. Kentucky will pick off those lobs.
Jacobson to within 4 in the final minute.
Boy, really nice deployment of Jacobson down there. Epps, who's a much smaller man, is posting Jacobs up down inside, getting it to him.
Foul on Jacobson.
Trying to establish defensive tempo is Minnesota. A lot of aggressive play on the perimeter. Kind of a cheap foul.
The 10th team foul. Edwards will shoot 2. And with 33.7 remaining, Minnesota can have the last shot of the half if it wants it. Archambault has come in for Minnesota, number 3. Rush Archambault, freshman from Fort Yates, North Dakota.
Jim, you can see that Edwards is out of sync. You know, having been down, you know, a guy gets an injury where he's not able to run, and it really takes him, particularly the way Kentucky plays, takes him out of sync.
Kentucky under 50% from the line, 6 of 13. Barber looking for help. They got 3 seconds to get it across. Now, who did that touch last? Minnesota ball, 21-8.
Well, that's one way to advance it against the press.
Epps argued it was off the Minnesota player's face, and it looked like it did hit Archambault.
Yes, it did. The referees don't have instant replay.
So Minnesota, with a sloppy first half, can still make this really tight at the intermission. 9 seconds. And charge on Archambault with 3 seconds to go. Had the nice dish.
Clem Haskins down on his knees on that one. He wanted the call going his way. Sure wasn't squared up defensively on the contact.
See what kind of shot Kentucky can release with 3 seconds.
With 3, you can dribble that ball a long way. Here comes Epps.
Epps from outside midcourt. Over the backboard, and Kentucky had a 10-point lead at one time. That's cut in half at the half.
Pitino looked at Epps and said, I wanted you to drive with it.
Clem Haskins just shakes his head. he may find some solace in knowing that his team can't play any worse than it did right there. Andrea Joyce is with us. Andrea?
Coach, you got off to such a fast start. What happened to let Minnesota back in this again here?
Ron's off to a little bit of a slow start. His shooting's flat. Got to get some more on kind of shot. They're a tough team defensively. They're drawing us away from the basket. Just got to stay tough.
What other adjustments are you going to make in the second half?
Well, we're in serious foul trouble with our two power forwards. How to play with Edwards. I think we'll be much better in the second half.
Coach, good luck in the second half. Back to you, Jim.
He says serious foul trouble. They've got 2 on Padgett, 2 on Muhammad, 2 on Prickett. Meanwhile, Minnesota has a couple of players with 3, so they're the ones in trouble also, or more so. CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship continues after this message and a word from your local station.
And must be received by midnight of May 30th, 1997. This message provided by the NCAA.
The deepest team at the Final Four, but Kentucky had 9 players score in the first half, Billy.
Well, go with the flow. I said that Minnesota is going to want to have the ball in possessions over 15 seconds, and they really have. You can see, so that's an advantage to Minnesota. The more they can have the ball, the less frenetic the game becomes. Defense becomes offense, and for Kentucky tonight, they've only turned it into 10 offensive points, but they've turned it over. They've turned Minnesota over 15 times. Big advantage for Kentucky. The bench, how about this one? Kentucky with a big advantage here. Surprisingly, every guy that's been in the game, all 9 guys have scored. The MVP's day, hey, Jackson's getting the better of Mercer. Mercer is going to have to pick it up. So this game is too tight to call, Jimmy.
Mercer only 3 of 13 from the field. And CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Final Four will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA National Semifinal game is sponsored by Genuine Chevrolet, Nike, Visa, and by Budweiser.
Oddly enough, Minnesota outshot Kentucky field goal percentage-wise and had 8 more rebounds than Kentucky in the first half. How about their shot selection, Billy?
Well, Jim, you can see right here, Minnesota getting nothing from the perimeter. 1 for 6 out there, and obviously they'll have to pick that up.
Kentucky has never trailed. Its largest lead was 10. Minnesota was down 10 in the second half in the regional final against UCLA and then exploded for an 8-point victory.
There's Kentucky starting off in a zone in the second half. Minnesota mixed their defenses up a lot in the first half.
Under 10 on the shot clock. Harris, 3-point shot. That's a huge one for confidence.
Absolutely. There's the kind of possession that Minnesota needs a lot of. That's what I was talking about. Under and over 15. That was one of those over 15. They got the shot they wanted.
And they're within 2. Epps, 2-point swish.
But what a winner he is.
Like you said, Billy, so many different guys they tried to replace him with. Jackson, Thomas on the ball. Minnesota coming out of the locker room here with a nice boost.
Great hands by Thomas that time. I talked about his hands in the beginning of this ball game, but that was a good catch. Padgett would rather shoot facing the basket.
And a foul here on Jacobson. Pushing from behind, his second.
That was a little bit more than a push, it looks like, based on the referee's interpretation. It looked like a forearm shiver. Jacobson using a lot of good strength against Mercer. You thought Mercer's quickness would beat him to the spot. That hasn't been the case.
Off the back of the rim, James pulls it down. Minnesota can take the lead with a 3.
How about that dribbling maneuver?
Blocked out of bounds.
McGlure blocked that one to the point. They put Bobby right on the floor.
They trap Jacobson.
The last place you want to go against Kentucky is into the deep corner.
And it's going to be just an uncontested dunk.
You do not want to have the ball in the corner for double teams, either coming up the court or once you get up there. He invited disaster, and that's what happened.
Quincy Lewis comes in.
Clem Haskins showing some real displeasure with Jacobson. Didn't even say anything to him as he walked by. And another bad pass.
Now, this is...
What's happening, Jim, is that Minnesota not coming back to the ball with their guards. They're trying to throw over the top, and that's not what you want to do against this Kentucky team with James and Thomas.
Traveling on Mercer. So they return the favor. 7 turnovers by Kentucky.
Ron Mercer moving that pivot foot.
This is Quincy Lewis, is averaging 9 off the bench in the tournament, has not scored today.
There Harris came back for the ball.
Another turnover. Epps lobs. Mercer missed the one-handed jam. Epps over the Kentucky bench. And he's still angry about the missed alley-oop.
Jim, we've seen the lob pass overused in both games tonight. A good, solid bounce pass would have created 2 points. There's Epps with the catch and the takedown.
Jackson right back over. Then 2 to Harris.
And there's the way you convert the 2-on-1 break. The lob sometimes overused.
40-38 Kentucky.
How about the way Jackson breaks a man down defensively?
Best in the Big Ten this year.
How often do you see a guy be the player of the year and also the defensive player of the year in the same league?
It's never happened in the Big Ten until this year. Jackson with Epps. They got tangled. We'll call it on Jackson.
Notice how Ron Mercer pleading with the official that he's getting hit on the arm. Now, I didn't see that one being hit, but it's starting to work on his mind a little bit that he hadn't been able to bury any jumpers. Sometimes you want to get physical with a shooter. It's affecting him.
Jared Prickett comes back in, senior from Fairmont, West Virginia, Mary Lou Retton's hometown, and he'd like to go for the gold on Monday night himself.
Great cut by Turner.
Minnesota again, a 2 to tie, 3 for the lead. Tough pass. They got it to James, missed the jam, but he'll shoot free throws.
James is really a wide body. So powerful in there and upset with himself. Sophomore has had an outstanding year. Passing inside, good hands. Just can't elevate, take that big body up there to make the jam.
Padgett's picked up his 3rd, so he heads to the bench, and Nazi Muhammad comes in. Muhammad has 2 himself.
Number 8 rebounder in the Big Ten is James, known as the court wall. Big, powerful young guy.
I think 2 years ago he won the coveted Indiana State High School title in this dome. Monday night he could possibly play for the national title of college basketball. That free throw that rattled out would have tied it. Epps, tough shot. Prickett back to Epps, goes outside. Mercer can't resist, hits the 3.
Jim, one of the first few good looks that he's had at the basket with nobody in front of him.
Carl Thomas out of control, but John Thomas there to put it up and in.
Second time in this half that Thomas just picked off a pass that converted to a layup.
Turner on the drive.
Game again starting to get to be Kentucky's pace.
45-41 Wildcats.
Good backdoor.
Quincy Lewis slashing, tipped up and in. I'll give that credit to James.
I think it's going to be James. You're right, Jim. But that's a good backdoor cut by Lewis. Now Mercer's got Lewis on him. See if he can get a screen down here to rub off for his jump shot.
Turner had it stripped by Harris, got it back. And Lewis read that one.
Yep. Prickett telegraphed the pass. You're exactly right, Jim. A little scowl on Mercer's face.
Minnesota's knocked down only 2 threes today. This one would give them the lead.
Tipped up. Foul from behind. Thomas and James are doing the job on the offensive glass in the second half.
Foul on Nazi Muhammad, number 3.
Here we see the tip. James and Lewis both going up. James got a piece of it. Right now, Minnesota's power is starting to take over.
Minnesota only 2 down. We've got the under 16 timeout. Hours of early edition enjoying the Final Four. Early in this edition of the national semifinals, it was really ragged for Minnesota, but you sense the Golden Gophers now are starting to get in sync. Jackson, jumper.
Well, good defense by Edwards. Went right up, forced him to alter the shot without fouling.
Several tries to tie it in this half gone awry. No shot, hand check on Jackson is going to be called.
Jim, right now, Kentucky shooting right under 40%. Last year, surprisingly, when they beat Syracuse, Kentucky shot 38.4%. That's the lowest shooting percentage of a winning team since Loyola Chicago beat Cincinnati way back in 1963. So you don't always have to have that big percentage to be the national champ. But I'm sure Rick Pitino would like Ron Mercer particularly to start hitting some shots.
Mercer's on the bench right now. 5 out of 17 in the game is Mercer, the All-America. Turner in traffic. Another foul called on Minnesota. This will be the 4th team foul. And this one again is on Thomas, and that's his 4th.
Jim, I noticed Jacobson coming back into the ball game, but more importantly, down on the other end, it was kind of interesting to see that Clem Haskins get up with Eric Harris, and Eric had ice packs on that shoulder that he injured in the Clemson game, and we saw yesterday in their workout he did not even step on the floor, so obviously he's having some trouble.
He'll replace Charles Thomas with the 4 fouls, and Mercer comes back in.
Notice how he's carrying that right arm.
Is Harris.
Talking about Harris, yeah.
Rickett on the drive. 3rd foul on this trip committed by the Minnesota team. And it's on James. There's Eric Harris.
Yeah, he had the ice pack underneath his jersey. You can see where he's all wet there.
First New York City player played for the Golden Gophers since Ray Williams.
Who was a great one for Minnesota.
Mercer.
Oh, there's the elevation and the square-up look that Kentucky fans are used to seeing in Ron Mercer.
47-43 Wildcats. Jackson, bounce pass, James, charge. Will they count it? Minnesota's calling for it. And
technical foul, and Clem is really in trouble here. He threw his jacket. He better be careful. He doesn't want to get 2. We remember what happened the last time in the Final Four here. Dean Smith was whistled for 2 and sent out of this arena. The assistant coach should grab Clem and move him back.
He's out of the coach's box.
But the competitive juices are flowing on Clem right now. Good job by the assistants.
So they did not count the James basket. And Derek Anderson's come in to shoot the free throw. How about that? Derek Anderson, who has not played since January. No one ever imagined he'd set foot on the floor when he was injured with an ACL injury.
Now we have an emotional moment right here. Clem Haskins calls his team over for the emotional lift. Rick Pitino judges that, sends his team over to talk, and Anderson hits the pair, Jimmy.
How about that? Derek Anderson gets in the box score at the Final Four. Here's the one that Haskins was upset about.
This is a close call. Could go either way and really went against Minnesota.
Did you think McClure was set?
I didn't.
I did not either. He was shuffling to the scene.
Let's see what the Minnesota players are made of now. Clem rallied the troops, and he's lucky he's still here. Jacket still on.
Mercer. Tie up, and it's Kentucky ball.
And now Clem still is upset. He needs to get his composure. Work all your life to get to the Final Four. You got to really get it back together.
That call goes the other way. They have a chance to shoot a free throw to get within one. Instead, Kentucky now with the possession. Also, after the technical, can go up 8. So it's a significant call. And Mercer, in fact, makes it 8.
And on the attack is Kentucky with their defense.
Jacobson,
Not a good shot. Clem would be smart to take a 20 and get everything settled back down again, Jim.
to the corner, huge three. Epps overshot it. They got him.
And Clem is going to take a 20-second timeout. This is a very smart move in his part. Get himself calmed down and his team.
National Coach of the Year. Clem the Gem, only the second time he's ever coached against his home state team, Kentucky. The other time he coached against Kentucky was in the tournament in '86. It was his final game as the head coach at Western Kentucky. It came in the second round of the NCAAs, and Kentucky prevailed 71-64.
Jimmy got his start from Gene Cady, who was then the coach at Western Kentucky. Hired Clem as an assistant. They've been close buddies since, and now, of course, coaching rivals in the Big Ten.
Never got to play against Kentucky. It was one game away from it in '66, and he's still upset about a call that happened in the tournament against Michigan that year that prevented him from meeting Kentucky in the next round. Happened with 11 seconds to go.
Where is Bobby Jackson going?
Look at Turner. He'll pull back, wait for the rest of his team. Epps from the wing, three-point shot. Cricket.
What happens, Jim, when you play against a team that is so good with pressure defense like Kentucky? You think you have them beat because some teams will press and then retreat. Kentucky will press, you beat them, then comes another press against you. Bobby Jackson's got to understand that.
3 on Cricket.
Here's Harris. He's going to try to speed it. Jacobson's got to move back.
Got 3 on 2. Turner got to the spot in a hurry, knocked it out of bounds.
Very important next about a minute and 30 seconds to see if Minnesota can regain their composure and not crack here with this point differential that has moved to 8 when it could have been, as you said, Jim, down to 1.
On that one possession. Prior to that trip, they had several tries to tie it or take the lead as they shot a 3. Jacobson outside, cans it. 2-point shot.
Excellent reverse off the pass by Jacobson right in front of Mercer.
That snaps the 6-point Kentucky run. 6-point game. Epps and it knocked loose from behind. Jacobson on the floor. He called a timeout.
Yes, he did. And
at 20.
Carver with a good defensive play there.
Monday night, championship night. Prelude to the championship, sponsored by Honda. 9 o'clock with the tip at 9:18. Arizona Wildcats already set for Monday night. If Kentucky gets there, it'll be only the second time ever that the championship game would pit 2 teams with the same nickname. And the other one, you mentioned the game already, was the 1951 final, Kentucky
Wildcats,
against Kansas State.
Bill Spivey, the All-American center for Kentucky, MVP in that particular Final Four. Ramsey Hagan, one of Rupp's great teams.
Jackson only got across with a second to spare.
Mercer dodged a foul there, using his knees to hold Jackson off.
Jackson brings it to 4. 51-47 Kentucky.
They give Clem Haskins some credit.
Cricket up on the line.
Give Clem Haskins credit here. That 20-second timeout calmed himself and his team down.
That last basket by Bobby Jackson, his first points of the second half. He has 13 for the game.
Rick Pitino wanting to do a little bit of coaching himself now with the 20.
How about Rick Pitino this year? He loses 7 players in all from last year's team, 4 to the NBA draft, 1 a redshirt. Jeff Shepard will be back next year, 1 a transfer, and Anderson to injury. I mean, this might be his best coaching effort. I can't imagine anything to top it.
Well, you know, Rick said early in the year, and he's a very honest guy about his appraising his club. He said, you know, after looking at us early in practice, I thought we could be a 500 team. We're talking about a team that is now in the Final Four. A terrific coach.
44-year-old, the 25-6 record in the NCAA tournament at Kentucky, 80%. Just moved past Mike Krzyzewski, in fact, with the last win with win percentage. Jacobson, 3 from way out there.
There's a push by Pritchett, by Padgett, rather. Minnesota is playing such hard-nosed basketball under the basket. They're just willing themselves some rebounds.
Padgett for his 4th. And there's the under 12 timeout. McClure will be replacing him, and when they come back, Minnesota's fighting back within 4. And the Goodyear Blimp providing the aerial shots of the Circle City, hosting a Final Four for the 3rd time. The other 2 times it was held here, the team coming out of the Midwest region won the championship.
Spells good news for Minnesota, huh?
Could be. Let's go over to Andrea Joyce. Injury update. Andrea?
All right, Jim, you probably noticed that Ron Mercer is at the end of the Kentucky bench. His thighs are cramping up. The trainer, Eddie Jamil, is massaging both of his legs. He says that his left leg is worse than his right. They'll put some ice on it as well. Back to you guys.
He's going to go ahead and say, I'm ready to check in, coach, and he's going to come in on the next whistle.
I think Rick Pitino wanted to check in to get moving on it instead of sitting over there and letting it tighten up on him, Jim.
Look at that pass. Gypsy for 2. How about that? 51-49, Kentucky's lead dwindles to 2.
Great intestinal fortitude on the part of Minnesota to come back from what could have been disaster, Jim. Emotional disaster on those technicals.
Shot clock. Turner raised his shot.
That was great defense by Eric Harris. He kept Turner right in his face.
Jacobson inside. Harris can tie it. And again, they squander the opportunity.
20-second timeout by Epps.
Bobby Jackson.
How about that one? How about the reverse English he put on that? Because he's going to have it in his right hand. And has to reverse the English. How about that? Terrific shot. Well, it started off being something that Dr. J began. Michael picked up.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a pose that we've seen on an insignia before. As Jackson from under the cylinder brings Minnesota within 2. However, the Golden Gophers, they've had 4 trips now in the second half to tie it.
Jim, Ron Mercer is standing there bending over like he really is having some problems. Let's see whether or not he can sprint or elevate. Looks like he's having a lot of concern with his thigh.
Rickett looking for help. And Carver takes it out of the sky. Jackson for the lead. Oh, time tonight. Minnesota moves in front.
He was off balance. Jim wasn't sure he wanted to shoot. Put it up.
52-51, Golden Gophers.
2 great plays by Jackson, one inside and one from the jumper.
And away from the ball, a foul called against Jacobson. His 3rd.
I believe Jacobson was coming out anyway with Lewis ready to go in, picked up the foul.
Charles Thomas, Quincy Lewis come in for Minnesota. Here's the shot.
Now watch out.
Gave them their first lead of the game.
He was off balance, wasn't sure he was going to shoot, then squared it up. I watched him in practice yesterday. He never takes a jump shot where he isn't perfectly squared up. And that helped him. The technique was all there.
A 1-and-1 for Mercer. That ties it. Total tournament time for Kentucky, trailing in the second half 15 seconds. They trailed for 15 seconds in the second half against Iowa, and about the same length in this one as Minnesota's lead was short-lasted.
Well, Jim, I'm sure that Clem Haskins would say to Tom Davis, thank you very much if they turn out to be successful, because Iowa, the one team that could teach you how you have to play against Kentucky.
Jackson up ahead. Thomas will wait for help.
Good decision, but Jackson needs to get out of the corner. Wisely does.
Looking to take the lead back, having it ever so briefly.
Nice patience here.
Jackson, another three. Put back. Tarver missed a short one with no one on him. And we're under 10 minutes to go in the semifinal.
Courtney James up off the bench. Mills off the bench. Coaches sending in different types of players.
Lewis got a hand on it, but Turner was in the right spot. And a block on Tarver.
It really was. Tarver never set.
That was with 5 seconds on the shot clock.
Jim, Kentucky looking to try to repeat as champions. They repeated as champions back in 48 and 49. Did Kentucky? Adolph Rupp's great Fab Five teams with Grozen, Beard.
1-1 in line.
Of course, Duke started their first championship of their repeat right here on this court. There's that odd shooting style of Turner. The other thing you've got to consider in this game, Jim, I think this is a much more difficult game than was the first one in terms of what it's taking out of the two teams physically. It's going to take a lot to recuperate. The winner will have a lot to recuperate from off of this game, regardless of which team it is.
2-point Kentucky lead. Thomas called for it, and he got it.
Turner got stuck down on Thomas, who's had an excellent second half.
Gave a wide-eyed signal that, hey, I'm open, and they fed the big man. Muhammad, did he travel? Yes.
You see that action down underneath the basket. Thomas had Turner. Good look by Bobby Jackson. Jackson needs to back up a little bit.
James is looking for the lob, but the pass deflected and stolen. Turner takes the middle. Rejected. Oh, it didn't look like a foul. They call one on Quincy Lewis.
Jim, Clem Haskins doing exactly what I'm kind of doing over there, holding his head saying, why are we throwing these lobs when we have the numbers on the break? We've seen a number of turnovers in both games where players want to just throw it up in the air. Spectacular, but not solid.
That's 10 team fouls on Minnesota, only 4 on Kentucky in this half, so 2 the rest of the way for the Cats.
You know, we're here in Indianapolis. I saw Oscar Robertson at breakfast this morning, and I bet you he winces when he sees plays like that. You know, make it easy, guys. The two-handed chest pass still may be the best way to convert on a 2-on-1 break.
Thomas better look out. And Epps came in to get the steal.
Just like a safety in football.
Pricking underneath, and it's a 4-point lead for Kentucky. Thomas from the line. And the other Thomas, John Thomas, unable to tip it in.
Well, Kentucky has met one challenge. There will be some more. But a great recovery on their part.
Under 8 on the clock. Muhammad
shot.
6 unanswered. The next whistle's the under 8 timeout. Thomas spins away. Minnesota should convert here. Uncontested. Muhammad moved out.
He was just trying to get back to get down under the basket and trip, Jim. But he made the big hook shot. Ron Mercer not moving as quickly without the ball as he has in the past.
Misses the jumper. There's Mercer. Blocked, but he calls a foul on James. And Mercer may have hit his, he hit his head.
No, I think he was hit, Jim, with an elbow while he was in the air, not hit his head on the floor. In either case,
he is bleeding.
He's bleeding,
yeah,
so he's going to have to
bleeding.
come out of the game. Now, is Anderson going to come in and shoot for him? Think about it.
Well, if you
No, it's
bring
gonna be
Anderson in and he missed, he'd be on the floor in live action, and that's something that Rick Pitino won't do. So Cameron Mills will be the man who will shoot the free throws.
Now, Mills, surprisingly, is only a 68% free throw shooter. Anderson is an 80% free throw shooter. You can select anybody you want when you have an injured player.
Mills 3 out of 3 tonight. And here's Jacobson. He has 3 fouls. Jackson out. Let's see what they do without Jackson. They want to get just a little extra breather here. Should he hit this free throw, we'll have the under 8 timeout.
Jackson played 49 minutes against Clemson, Jim, in that double overtime game.
All but one. Now the teams will head to the bench. Kentucky saw Minnesota pull ahead by 1, but then breaks in front by 6.
Former football player acting as a free safety. He's cut this off. He's going to anticipate the pass to the middle. The double team is here. The overplay's here. Watch what happens. Anticipation, perfect job by Epps. The pickoff, Kentucky's defense is their offense.
During that timeout, Bobby Jackson was being stretched out on the end of the Minnesota bench. This was just moments ago. And he is on the bench. And he's cramping that leg, they say.
Prickett does not beat Thomas to the ball.
For Prickett, his 4th. Mercer comes back in.
Jim, I'm taking a look at Jackson. Looks like he's going back down there for some more stretching. In my estimation, unless he can get back out on the floor in the next minute or so, that spells real trouble for Clem Haskins.
Well, trouble for Kentucky, and well, here's the steal, Turner, and Minnesota ball.
And the referee says I made a mistake.
Changes the call. But for Kentucky, I was going to say Prickett and Padgett each with 4 fouls. Again, not a deep Kentucky team. Tarver comes in.
Tarver has played some hard-nosed basketball out here. Excellent minutes off the bench.
7 minutes remaining. Kentucky by 6. Epps.
There's Tarver again, keeping it alive.
Ahmed kept it going for Kentucky.
Minnesota stays in the zone.
Epps. Minnesota ball. So 3 shots at the basket. Kentucky doesn't convert. Kentucky on an 11-4 run since Minnesota took that brief lead. And Mercer with the body is whistled.
Jim, I think that Mercer is starting to wear down physically a little bit himself. We showed that he had some cramping out there, but he doesn't look anywhere near as quick as we've seen him in the past. Maybe because of the bodies Jacobson's been putting on him, and Harris and others.
Jacobson gets past Mercer. Stay outside.
There was a good example. Jacobson's not quicker than Mercer, but he was on the play.
6.5 to go. Gophers need to dig in for another run.
There's Jacobson open.
Lewis, 3. Turner whistled for that. And that will be a 1-and-1, the 7th team foul against Kentucky.
The bench and the power of Minnesota is now starting to wear Kentucky down. Just as we saw North Carolina in the first game starting to get fatigued, you're really noticing it with Kentucky now.
4 on Thomas, 4 on Paget and Prickett. Tarver will shoot a 1-and-1.
You know, Jim, when you really think of the 4 teams, the freshest team is going to be Arizona. I'm talking about North Carolina certainly was worn down in that first game. If they had to continue, they'd be in real trouble. Arizona looks like the freshest bunch.
They never looked fatigued today.
No,
and
they sure did.
the Tar Heels.
They've got the fresh legs. Bobby Jackson getting ready to come back in the ball game. Minnesota goes zone.
Paget makes it a 9-point game.
You just cannot allow him to stand still and shoot his jump shot.
Hit a shot like that to break Iowa's heart.
But he's so big when you play zone, he spots up out there and he can shoot over most guys that would be in the zone area to guard him.
Lewis
having all kinds of problems with his shot today.
Paget again left open, 3-pointer. A 14-4 run by Kentucky after Minnesota took the lead.
And one of the reasons, Jim, Kentucky is always so effective from the perimeter. Lewis loses it out of bounds on just a mishandled pass. One of the reasons why Kentucky shoots so well from the perimeter is that Rick Pitino gives you that liberty to keep taking them.
Jackson comes back in. Number 24 after turnover. Number 24 by Minnesota. Edwards for the Cats, and Mercer kind of slowly makes his way to the Kentucky bench.
I'd imagine that we're going to see the trainer working on him in a hurry. Epps likewise.
Minutes remaining. Kentucky has regained control of this game, but commits the turnover. The pass, maybe a little too much zip on it for Edwards.
And what we're seeing tired ball players right now because of fatigue, not being able to execute.
Paget reached in, and he'll foul out of the game.
This is a big foul for 2 reasons. Paget, the one guy that could create the perimeter game, now that Mercer's having all kinds of problems with his legs. Derek Anderson up off that bench looking like he's wanting to say, Coach, you got to put me in. Paget just doesn't quite get there in time.
Prickett will replace him. He has 4 fouls, so still hope for the Minnesota faithful. I know there's one down there at the Players Championship who's the reigning British Open champion and former golf coach at the University of Minnesota, Tom Lehman. He wanted to wear a Gopher jersey today. 1-1. And
that's not the easiest job in the world, being a golf coach in Minnesota. They own, what do you have, a 3-week season, Jim?
You sell skis during the off season.
I see. Mercer really having problems with those cramps.
Got 1 of 2 and come within 8 at 65-57. They wouldn't let him wear the jersey down there. Jacobson's jersey was couriered to him, but didn't fit tour code, I guess.
Boy, Turner's showing some real stamina, isn't he, Jim? He's been asked to play against hard-nosed defense all night and be the primary ball handler. He's getting the job done. Here he comes back out to get it again.
Under 10 on the shot clock. Wide open Mills. What a tournament for this man. You know, 2 years ago, you never believed this guy'd ever see a minute at a Final Four. Now the turnover, Bobby Jackson. Oh, and a whistle.
Hold on Mills.
Wow.
But, Jim, Mills made the shot. He spotted up where he was supposed to be, and he waited for one thing, and that was a great play by Turner. The clock winded down. Terrific penetration, and look at this kick out. Mills had to do what he does so well. Square up. Perfect rotation, hits the jumper.
Mills is now 15 of 20 in the NCAA tournament from 3. Only 75%. You take that from the free throw line. Tarver 1-1. Barely grazed the rim. Thomas. He willed that one home.
Jim, the total number of points that Mills scored in '96 for the season, 6.
And tonight, Mills has 10 in the Final Four. Muhammad. Turnaround rejected by James. And a foul on Muhammad.
Rick Pitino doesn't want any fouls the rest of the way. He can help it for a lot of reasons. He needs bodies out there. That's his fourth, right? But more importantly, he doesn't want this clock stopped.
Well, think about the body situation here. Mercer, he's limping to the scorer's table. They've already fouled out Padgett. You've got Muhammad and Prickett on the floor with 4 each. McGlure will take Muhammad's place.
And I really thought the bench of Minnesota would be very draining, maybe draining enough to come out with a victory, but certainly the kind of a bench and wear and tear game that makes it very difficult for a team to rebound after one day.
And Haskins' wife, Yvette.
Basketball family.
Their daughter.
One of the great women's players in college basketball, now an outstanding coach herself.
Clement at Dayton. 8-point Kentucky lead with 3:44 remaining. Thing to remember, Minnesota, when it has outshot the other team field goal percentage-wise on the season, as it is doing today, it's 25-0. But here they trail by 8 with only 3:44 remaining.
Jim, but Minnesota hasn't turned the ball over 24 times. That's made up for that shooting percentage. There are some walking wounded out there right now. Mercer hurting. Epps is hurting on the bench. And the one guy that's been able to stay out there under all this pressure, Turner, however, is still out there, and he's going to have the ball in his hands.
On the floor, and a tie-up, and Minnesota ball.
Didn't get the 20.
In fact, there are no more 20s for either side. Just 2 full timeouts each. A little foul that they didn't call. Diving on the pile. Jackson got the tie up. Minnesota now needs to make every possession into the score. You're down 8 with 3:30 to go.
Bobby Jackson getting that ball where he doesn't want it, down in the deep corner.
Jackson with Mills guarding him. Jackson over Mills. Mills comes away with the loose ball.
Really think Jacobson needs to get into the game, Jim. They need another scorer right now. Harris is really hurting with that shoulder. He's not going to take a shot.
Mills from 3.
Harris can't even lift his arm.
Watch Jackson drive to the basket. A reach in on Turner. 2 shots.
I'm watching Harris out there, Jim. You're talking about a guy that's playing one-armed, cannot reach, put his arm over his head. Here's Jackson trying to take it all the way. And Turner had ball, but he also had some body.
Minnesota from the line in the second half has made only 3 of 8, while Kentucky's drained 9 of 10. They are really letting it slip at the line.
6th leading scorer in the Big Ten. 2nd in steals, 6th in assists. Playing all-around player, but he's going to have to come up big the rest of the way here.
68-61 Kentucky. Familiar with that score in this building. That's the score by which they lost to Clemson to open the season. Seconds. Nazir Muhammad. He was a JV star last year for Kentucky. Not a prime time player, but he is tonight.
Well, if his friends will only remember him the way he looked when he arrived at Kentucky. They wouldn't have any idea who this young man is right now. His body fat percentage went from 24 down to 13. Looks like an entirely different person, and all falling right for Kentucky.
9-point lead, 2:38. Thomas blocked by Muhammad.
Well, this combination of McGloire and Muhammad, Jim, don't get a lot of credit, but that's a pretty good twosome at the center position for Kentucky. Look at Harris running around, Jim. He can't even move his arm. He really is useless on the floor.
Jackson almost took his eye off of it and lost it. 3-point shot. James tips it up and in. Down to 7. 2:15 to go. Need a big defensive play here. Cricket. Can't convert. Harris has it. Minnesota breaks early. And a foul on Jacobson.
Bobby Jackson went in the air. He had intended to get it to Jacobson. Unfortunately, James touched it. Here's the tip. James going up. Beautiful soft touch. Here we'll see the tip. Jacobson, not much he can do, Jim, if he didn't foul there. You've got Mercer away for an easy dunk.
Mercer only 7 of 21 from the field, 33% tonight.
Ron Mercer probably learned a little lesson of what it will be like on the next level. You just don't always get your open jump shot. When you get hammered, you got to go back into the fray. He got disgusted with himself, start flattening out his shot in the first half.
Edwards comes in for him.
Rick Pitino doing that offense-defensive maneuver here, trying to get Ron Mercer ready for Monday night. With those legs, putting ice packs on him. Jackson taking too much time.
Jacobson forced 3 off the rim.
Well, it looks like Wildcats, Jim.
Second time ever. 2 Wildcats back in 51, Kansas State and Kentucky. There are Wildcats. Edwards up shy. Loose ball to Minnesota. Had to draw on that Indiana experience.
They got to go for threes now.
High up, and it's Kentucky ball. Now, that's the only thing that I could hearken back to give him any hope. That was the 7-point comeback with 50 seconds to go at Indiana, where they pulled it out in overtime. But here it's 9 with Kentucky's possession and a timeout, only 65 seconds away from having the Monday night final all set.
In and burning up the Texas Motor Speedway. Saturday, the Coca-Cola 300. Sunday, the Interstate Batteries 500. Next weekend on CBS.
Kentucky ball, 9-point lead. In a timeout situation. Minnesota with 2 full timeouts. And Billy, what can you say about the rest of the way?
What you're going to see the rest of the way, Rick Pitino knows how to defend the 3, and that's exactly what he's going to do. And if you're Minnesota, you have got to take some threes now. Figure out a way to penetrate and kick on out.
Cricket go to the line for 2. James hacked them. Cricket. We've talked so many times through the years, Billy, doing Kentucky games about his sensational freshman year experience in the tournament. And, you know, he had to sit out last year, played 5 games, got the medical red shirt. But as a freshman, he had the 22-point game against Florida State in a regional final.
11 rebounds in that ball game.
And then against Michigan at the Final Four as a freshman. Matched up against Chris Webber. He had 9 points and 7 rebounds.
He was the all Southeast region that particular year. West Virginia Player of the Year coming out of high school. And now the record holder of most games played ever in a Kentucky uniform.
That's the first time he's missed a free throw at a Final Four. He was 7 of 7 in that game against Michigan from the line.
You know that record that he broke, 139 games, set by Ralph Beard.
That's moved past Beard also.
Yep.
Long ball. Brickett's down there to defend. Jacobson gains control of it. Three-point shot. And Epps with the long rebound. Epps going to the line. And come over for a quick piece of strategy from the coach.
Well, Rick Pitino.
You can tell by his gait, he's got plans for Monday night.
Yes, he does. 1987, 10 years ago, brought Providence to Kentucky for a Final Four. Who would have ever dreamed that particular night that he would be coaching the Wildcats 10 years later?
We'll have two coaches in the final who were at their 4th Final Four, 3 with their present school and 1 with another. That's right. Olson and Pitino.
And how about Eddie Sutton on there? The one team that he didn't take to the Final Four was Kentucky, a team that he coached.
Well, we won't count the Creighton experience, but he's the only guy to take 4 teams to the NCAA tournament when you factor in the Creighton years.
Kentucky not going to foul, but they're going to play everything on the perimeter here. Look at this, tight on the perimeter.
Jacobson, 3 over Prickett. Jackson puts it back in. 10-point game. Timeout, 38 seconds. 1 timeout remaining for Minnesota. We'll be right back. Only 38 seconds remaining. Ron Mercer's parents, Birdie, his mother, ML, his father, and their son with 19 points on the night has an even 1,000 now for his career at Kentucky in 2 years.
Jim, looking ahead to Monday night, I think a lot is going to be determined on the basis of what Kentucky's trainer can do tomorrow. This is a team that really had to play the kind of club that takes so much out of you physically. We know that Kentucky is not deep. Guys like Turner played just a terrific basketball game physically. Mercer, we saw that about midway through the second half, really having leg cramps. Epps got a little bit of a problem. Padgett had ice on his shoulder. Be interesting.
Still wonder about Jason Terry. Had to go to a local hospital, and
well, we liked Arizona's attitude the day before the Kansas game in practice. They had kind of the chip on their shoulder. They were loose. Felt that they were the kind of team that could come into that particular region and be winners, when all of us thought that Kansas was an automatic.
They continue to say they are scared of no one and feel no pressure. Jackson hits the basket. That's a Arizona team that was down by 10 late in the opening game against South Alabama and showed tremendous fortitude to come back, win that game. Down 10, second half, College at Charleston. Came back to win that game. And Clem Haskins, and what a great season. I had a chance to be with him this week, and I tell you, this wonderful family man is going to have other occasions to bring Minnesota back to the Final Four.
And Jim, think about something. Less than a week ago, Providence, with 3.5 seconds to go, have a chance to make the basket that Arizona doesn't even get here. So, you know, when you talk about a club that's shown signs of resiliency, they'd have to be it.
Team has got the good karma going. Tonight on CBS, stay tuned for Everybody Loves Raymond, starring Ray Romano. That's after action here in Indianapolis. Final 16 seconds. Kentucky played 10 players tonight, and all 10 of them got in the scoring column, including Derek Anderson.
Well, we watched Derek Anderson the day after we did this, or the day that we did the Cincinnati Marquette game. Went down to watch Kentucky practice. He walked out there and went through a series of exercise that was absolutely spectacular. Showed the kind of fortitude he had to try to get back. And how about Rick Pitino saying, even though the doctors okayed him We're not going to play him. He doesn't want to hurt his chances for the future.
Carver scores inside. And Kentucky is all set to go back and try to achieve back-to-back national championships. Rick Pitino now 26-6 at Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. So Monday night, it will be a cat fight. And likely to be a wild one at that. Arizona and Kentucky for the national championship. We'll hear from Rick Pitino when we come back to Indianapolis. We're all set. The championship game will be Kentucky and Arizona.